Dominic, how are you? Nice to see you again. Can we do an intro and then...
Yeah, sure.
I think, Stephen, what I'm going to do is introduce everybody, then introduce Matt, who'll then pass on to you.
Okay.
And go around to...
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. I'm hoping you can all hear me. My name's Simon Crooks. I'm the project director for this amazing construction site and opportunity for Brisbane behind me. I'm going to introduce on what I think is a great day for Brisbane. All the really important people will talk about this great opportunity. I would make one point. DFS, the company we're talking about, have such confidence in Queensland and the opportunity here that this is pretty well the only thing they worked on worldwide during COVID last year. This is it. They had ongoing projects, but they stopped every other opportunity and focused solely on us. And I can't thank them enough. But on that note, I'd like to welcome, obviously Matt Becky, our CEO, the Deputy Premier, the Treasurer, and Grace as well, who's your electorate, I think.
Yes, it is.
And I will get off now and hand over to Matt. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and it's nice to be back in Queensland. Today, we're sort of reflecting a little bit. In 2015, we got the development rights for Queen's Wharf. In 2018, our plans were approved. Now we're less than 2 years away from opening this up, and that's a fantastic milestone for us today because we're able to announce a bit of a coup. Simon's mentioned it. We've been able to do a deal with DFS to bring 100 luxury brands to Brisbane. Some of these brands have never been to Queensland, some of them have never been to Australia. Most of the brands will be in that beautiful heritage building behind us, where we will transform the inside into a 3-story luxury outlet. Then we'll have 16 additional stores here in the luxury box facing outside. That's the entry into the integrated resort. And it's important to remember that this is the only integrated resort of scale that's being built around the world today. That means in 22, when hopefully traffic and travel resumes to normality, this will pop on the global scale. And it will certainly pop now that we have this fantastic retail offering to complement what we're doing here. So we're pretty chuffed. As your resident Euro, I'm particularly chuffed to have all these European brands. So in about 2 years' time, when Valentine's Day rolls around, you know where you need to go to do your duty. Thank you. I want to hand over to the Deputy Premier now. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Matt. The Palaszczuk government's incredibly proud to have supported and continue to support the Queen's Wharf development, and we're especially pleased to hear today about this contract announcement, the retail partnership announcement. It will deliver 6,000 square metres of the world's best brands, and they're clambering over themselves to get into Brisbane and to be a part of this. And that's important because those brands will be some of what will attract the anticipated 1.4 million visitors, each and every year to this development and to Brisbane, and that will create jobs. There will be lots and lots of jobs, not just in construction, you can see that right now, but of course in that high-end retail, and we're very, very excited to see this next milestone and of course the development to start opening up. It really means that Brisbane, the southeast and Queensland, we're primed, we're ready for, as the world comes out of the COVID-19 pandemic, our economy is set to really take off. Visitors from around the world. There's no other project like this one under construction or even indeed in planning right now. And so that means that when the world opens up, Brisbane will be the place people want to come to for those brands as well as everything else here on the site. I'll ask the Treasurer and Grace to say a few things.
Well, thanks to Destination Brisbane Consortium and the Queen's Wharf project for inviting us along today for an important announcement. When you see the economic activity happening here on this site, it's hard to imagine the devastation that COVID is still causing around the world. To see this announcement today, to know that this project continued all the way through 2020, all the way through COVID, I think is a real testament to the way Queenslanders as one were able to respond to the pandemic and to fight back against the pandemic. Our strong health response and our targeted economic stimulus means that Queensland is one of the best places in the world to invest and to develop a business. And that's what we're seeing here today with this announcement. A DFS is coming to Brisbane. They say if you build it, they will come, and they are coming to Brisbane, bringing one of the premier retail outlets in the world right here in our own backyard. This will put Queensland on the map. As the Deputy Premier said, we're doing it tough at the moment when it comes to international tourism. But with the vaccine now being distributed around the world, we know the international tourists will return to Queensland. And when they come, when they make a choice about where they travel around the world, we want them to choose Queensland. Getting a 6,000 square metre retail space, the largest DFS facility and retail outlet in Oceania, right here in Brisbane, that will put Queensland on the map. We're not competing with Sydney and Auckland. We want to compete with Hong Kong and Singapore and all of those destinations in our region to say to those tourists, come to Queensland. We have a terrific place. It's a terrific tourism offering, and we are the place to be. And people will know, because of our strong health response, we are a safe place to travel, it's a safe place to invest, and it's a safe place for the future. And so, as the Treasurer and Minister for Investment, I welcome this announcement today. This is a terrific sign of confidence in Queensland, in our economy, and in the future. So congratulations to everyone involved. It's a great announcement. We look forward to the project steaming ahead, these retail outlets opening and putting Brisbane right on the map.
Well, in the heart of my electorate of McConnell in Queensland, we're beautiful one day, perfect the next. And the Queen's Wharf project just keeps delivering with now this world-class retail attraction that we'll be having here right in the heart of Brisbane. Not only is this project reshaping Brisbane in so many ways, it's now reshaping the retail outlet to complement already the fantastic retail offering we have in Brisbane. This is world-class. Really excited to be here today with the Queen's Wharf project team leaders, knowing that we are going to introduce a world-class retail outlet that will truly become an attraction for tourists right around the world. Brisbane is being reshaped by this project in so many ways. The jobs it's created, we're a safe state, we're a world-class state, and soon we will be the #1 destination because of the offerings that are happening right here in the seat of McConnell. I couldn't be prouder for this to be happening in my electorate. Thanks for having me.
Can I introduce Dominic Lamb, who's the CEO of Retail Association of Australia, to say a few words, please?
Good morning. This is an incredibly exciting project for our retailers in Queensland. This is about Queensland coming of age and really offering to our international tourists and our domestic tourists and all of our consumers in Queensland an opportunity to shop in world-class retail precincts. We're incredibly blessed that our members, DFS, have taken this space, and we're incredibly excited about what this is going to mean for the city of Brisbane and certainly just simply attracting more tourists and people to this particular spot. This is about spending and about consumer confidence, and all of these cranes behind us, all of this building creates such an incredible atmosphere for everybody else in our community to know that we are on our way and that we will, certainly come out of COVID-19 a better city.
Thank you, Dominic. I think the time now is for you to ask questions if you have any.
Can someone describe what it'll look like, what it'll feel like? I'm thinking the bottom of the Marina Bay Sands in Singapore. Is that kind of what it's going to be like? Who's the best person to answer?
Did you want to answer, Matt?
What was the question?
If you guide us through what it will look like when people are walking through, I mean, is it going to be like the bottom of the Marina Bay Sands in Singapore? Is it going to be like world-class shopping?
Oh, absolutely. Great, thank you. So the question is, what will it look like? Well, one of the things that we've always tried to do with this design here and with the offer here is to make it unique. People don't want to travel all over the world to have another generic experience of a luxury mall in Asia. So that's why we decided to go for the Lands Administration building, which is quite unique. And it's a beautiful heritage building that we are able to repurpose in a 3-story offering. What we can do here in that building and the 16 additional stores is something you can't do in other places. If you are a really committed shopper, we'll make you a private shopping experience available at midnight with a glass of champagne. You can't do that anywhere else, but we can do that here in Brisbane. Oh, it's terrific. So there's a total of 13 heritage buildings here. They all will be repurposed. We're looking at bars, restaurants, obviously a lot of retail that goes in here, galleries. We're looking at new retail concepts that don't currently exist. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why we love doing business here in Queensland, is because we can. Because we've got the opportunity to invest, and we have had very good support from the government and the bureaucracy to actually achieve what we need to achieve. Well, that's probably something for one of the...
I'm happy to, and the Treasurer can add, but the fact that here in Queensland we were able to maintain our pillar industries, our traditional strengths, agriculture and resources, and also construction. In fact, here at Queen's Wharf we were able to accelerate construction during the lockdown. When the city streets were empty, we were able to allow additional truck movements, and that allowed for that excavation, the big hole dig, to not just continue but to move faster. Now that the world is beginning to see the end of the pandemic in sight, we will continue to have the jobs here in construction, as well as be ready to create a massive number of jobs in retail, hospitality, right across the site here.
Thanks. Queensland was the first in when it came to COVID-19. We were the first jurisdiction in the country to declare a public health emergency, and we are the first out. We are coming out of COVID. And we see that in the economic data. In December, we had the highest jobs growth in the country. We've got the highest population growth in the country, with the vast majority of interstate migration coming to Queensland. Another small statistic, we've got the highest number of approvals for new home construction in Queensland since 1994. So that's the highest in a quarter of a century. So economic activity is coming back. And projects like this and big international retailers coming to Queensland send a strong signal, and it's the signal I send every day as the Minister for Investment. Queensland's open for business, we're ready for investment, and we're going to create jobs. And that's our priority as a government. So these sorts of decisions send a strong signal about confidence and job creation. 8,000 people will be working in this complex when it's completed, and that will be jobs for everyone in Queensland. And so that's a great initiative. It's something we support very strongly as a government, but we need to create more jobs. It'll take us years to come back from the economic impacts of COVID, but we're heading in the right direction.
About 600. So it's going well. It will ramp up. We've got quite a lot of work off. So, what you see in the structural steel is a lot of fabrication in Brisbane with Beanley Steel and people like that. So we're sort of spreading it on-site and off-site.
On a different topic,
Yeah, sure.
So ANZ's pulled out or refused to fund a loan for Newcastle Port, citing climate change and this policy there. The government last year invested in Dalrymple Bay Coal Terminal, and they've had some trouble funding their expansion. Do you think that that's because of coal and climate change, and are you concerned about ANZ's stance?
No, not at all. Coal has a strong future in Queensland. I've been a strong supporter of that industry since my election to Parliament. And of course, I supported the development of the Olive Downs mine, one of the mines that I progressed as the Minister for State Development, and of course signed the royalties agreement for the Bravis mine, the Adani mine. So we think this is a very good investment for Queensland. The world is going to need Queensland coal for a long time to come, particularly our metallurgical coal. Until someone can work out a better way to develop steel and to make steel that we see in the girders in this building, until they can work out a better way to do that, they're going to need Queensland coal to make that steel, not just for Queensland, but for the world. So we're confident about that investment, and we're confident in the future of the coal industry.
Would you be considering putting more into that investment to help it get
No, we've made a strategic investment, as we will with our $500 million Back in Queensland Business Investment Fund, one of the signature projects, signature investments that we announced as part of the budget. So we've taken a 10% stake, that's where we stand on that project. But there's a lot of other projects across Queensland we'll be supporting as a government. Of course, they have to provide a commercial return to the taxpayer. It's a fund managed by the Queensland Treasury Corporation. So Queenslanders will be getting money back on that investment. That's very important. And that will help, of course, create jobs across Queensland and support business, which is our priority as a government.
And you mentioned the Adani and Bravis mine. That for its railway, the government ruled out putting any public funds towards that. What's different between the Government Bay investment and Adani?
Because that's a well-established coal terminal that's been exporting coal to the world from Queensland for years. And it's an important strategic investment we'll make, as we'll make in other private sector entities going forward.
How confident are you about a timely return of international travellers, particularly from China? And also, how concerned are you about the ongoing diplomatic relationship between Australia and China, given that the Chinese home rollers, Chinese travellers, that is a market that is vulnerable to signals from the Chinese government that show they're willing and able to tell people not to travel to particular countries and they do follow.
Well, I'll say a couple of things in relation to that. This project is not just for international tourists, this project is for Queenslanders. First and foremost, it's about creating jobs, but it's creating a unique tourism, retail, hospitality a venue for Queenslanders. And so when we hear about the number of units that are being sold here, taken up by domestic investors, that's a really strong signal that Queenslanders and other Australians are responding very strongly to this project. The vaccine, of course, is now being distributed internationally, and of course the accelerated uptake of the vaccine is now starting to pick up speed. And I think that's going to be the real litmus about the return of international tourism. We need the vaccine to be broadly distributed. We need all Queenslanders and Australians to get their shot to ensure we can be protected. And that will really be, I think, the signal for the return of international tourism. But ultimately, that's going to be a decision for the federal government, who are responsible for managing international borders. So we're confident. And in a sense, this isn't a decision we've made. It's a decision of a very large international retail organisation to say the future is bright in Queensland, the future is bright through projects like this. We've made a decision to invest and come to Queensland. As Dominic said, it's going to be a game changer in many ways for retail and putting Queensland on the map. So we're confident about the future. Of course, we want to see the relationship with China, which is a very important one to Queensland, continue to strengthen over time. But ultimately, it'll be the federal government that will make those decisions. We'll continue to build our relationships across Oceania, across our region and across the world to support Queensland investment, to support Queensland trade and to support Queensland jobs.
And if this project is for Queensland, it's got luxury brands, will it be affordable for Queenslanders?
Yeah, I believe so, of course. Queenslanders deserve the best, and that's what we're bringing to them.
Treasurer, is it responsible financial management that just one HHS financial costs?
No, look, the HHSs, of course, have faced the pressure of COVID, like all government entities. We're running a very significant deficit this year. That's just the reality. All governments around the world, all state governments except for Western Australia, which is being held up by record iron ore prices, all governments around Australia, the federal government is running a very significant deficit and, of course, running up $1 trillion in debt. So we're all facing the pressure. But I'm confident the HHSs will be able to manage within their budget this financial year, and that's what I expect as Treasurer of all government entities. We have to be very careful and prudent with public money now, and we need to manage within our budgets, and that's what we're going to do, and I'm confident that will happen.
7 of those HHSs have had overall losses. 21. Why is that?
Well, I don't want to ask the Deputy Premier to respond to that, but the Health Minister will be able to respond to that in due course. I don't know the answer to that, I'm sorry.
This morning, the Queensland Farmers Federation, they put a figure, they've estimated that there's 26,000 job shortages for next month, which is sort of the peak of the harvest. There's 26,000 jobs needed to pick the crop. Is there more that the government can do to help that sort of thing? And Daniel Bushland also commented saying that there's in Queensland about 1,000 chef shortages. So is there some sort of imbalance that needs to be fixed?
Of course, there's skills constraints coming through in the economy. But I think in one way, we've done our bit as a government. We announced a number of initiatives Pick Queensland is one of those. We're trying to support labour force movements across the country to enable that to happen smoothly in Queensland. Working with the federal government about quarantine requirements for international workers coming from the Pacific region. So we're going to continue to do our bit. It is a significant problem, not just for Queensland, but for the nation. The big labour force levers in Australia are held by the federal government. That's just the way our federation works. But we work very cooperatively, particularly Mark Furner, the Agriculture Minister, who I know works very closely with the Queensland Farmers Federation. So we'll continue to work with the Commonwealth Government to try and find solutions to that. We want to support our agricultural producers. We made a number of announcements in the election. We'll continue to roll those out and continue to support that important part of our economy.
Do you think Pick Queensland was a successful program?
Look, we announced a number of initiatives because we didn't want to leave the agriculture industry on its own. We wanted to say to them, and we developed that, of course, with a number of horticultural organisations. We wanted to say to them, we're with you through this, as we are with Queenslanders. We are working with you to get through COVID, and we'll continue to do that. And if there are other initiatives, we will consider that within the fiscal constraints and the budgetary constraints that our government faces.
How happy not to have to screw egg around this?
Look, this is an important project for Queensland, and we're very, very pleased to be supporting this development. It's something we've supported since our election in 2015. We announced it with the Star Group, and we're very excited about the jobs it's going to create for our state.
Well, I think Kate made a decision about her own life, her family and her career, and while I was disappointed, I supported her through that. Well, I'm not across the details of discussions that have been had with the Chief Health Officer, but what we've clearly shown is that we can hold all sorts of events in a COVID-safe way, and I understand, Anzac Day should be no different. Well, the Department of Health will work with those organisations through those details to ensure that they can hold events in a COVID-safe way. We've shown with all sorts of different events that we can do that with contact tracing, social distancing, that sort of thing. While Anzac Day is incredibly important to our entire community, many of the people who gather there are also amongst those most vulnerable to COVID, and that has to be taken into account. Well, those measures were announced yesterday. Some require legislative change, so they will have an effect over time. And what we also announced is that Bob Atkinson would review both the implementation of his existing report, but also the implementation of these new initiatives over time, and that will give us a really clear indication of what's worked. We've said some of it is being trialled, and clearly we'll need to assess those trials over time. First and foremost, we have an obligation and a responsibility to keep the community safe. And what we've seen recently was that the existing policy settings had led to some tragedies, terrible tragedies, and a level of anxiety in the community. And so these initiatives are in response to that. They are designed to continue to support and wrap around services with young people, but also keep them safe and keep the community safe. Well, I've only seen the reporting of those incidents, and of course I am. Our police do a wonderful job, a very, very good job, and it's a tough job, and amateurs really aren't cut out to do it. We need our police to do it, and in fact vigilantes, the police will tell you, actually make their job harder. Thank you.
Right, thanks everyone.
Thank you. Gentlemen.
Very good. Thanks for having us again.
Thank you.
Look forward to doing it.